Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning to all of you. I would like to thank San Patrignano and to the entire community here who have given us this opportunity to be able to meet, to talk, to think about things, not to just establish relations between people who are thinking of their communities and the future of their communities, but it's also an opportunity to share a strategy to be able to reach our objectives on time. Thank you, Letizia. Your commitment has been fundamental. You are one of the many people who are trying to find new ways to interpret what is happening around us, new keys to reading the situation, as it were. Like yesterday, there was a meeting with schools in Rimini. There was a local event. There are about 600 or 700 schoolgoers at the meeting, and we wanted to show that we, in a small region, in a small community, in a region of Italy, we wanted to explain what we meant by a positive economy. Now, of course, you can work for the reforms of the country to be implemented. Of course, we know that Europe is changing. We know that people are speaking in terms of global governance. But if we want to really find a way to develop, we have to start ourselves. We have to look for the solution and start implementing things ourselves. If we were to wait for everything to be settled, I know this as a mayor, I would probably end up always postponing. So one of the things which we've understood from Jacques Attali's thoughts is that we can't just use excuses. We have to start changing ourselves if we want everything else to change too. And as far as change is concerned, we have understood that there can be economic, there can be social changes, and there are two different approaches at international level. You either submit to a change, or you interpret that change. If you interpret change, that means that you have to call into question the very basis of a development model. Like here, I'm speaking as a mayor of this town, of this city. We can see Croatia on one side, we can see the hills of Tuscany on the other, San Marino, this very small area on the coast has tried to go towards a new type of development. 70 years after the Second World War, of course, after the war, everything was destroyed and everything was rebuilt and welfare was achieved. However, now things are changing a lot. A number of activities have dried up. So we've gone through a type of economic, political, and social earthquake. And we now have to try to find a new house in which to live, as it were. We have to rebuild everything. And this depends on certain strategic choices. But politicians never do that. As a mayor, you have a situation in which you might have an earthquake in terms of employment or unemployment, rather. Everything changes. Then politicians may be able to take come up with short-term solutions. If you've got an earthquake in a house, you might have a crack in the wall, you might try to fix that, patch it up and what have you, and repair a window. So that sort of thing will probably get you a consensus in the short term. But if you don't really tackle the foundations of your house or of your community, you'll never really get it off the ground. So this goes back to what we've done over the past 70 years. We shouldn't just develop in terms of quantity. Too much cement isn't going to necessarily give us a better economy. We can't just rely on the methods used in the past. We have thousands of houses which are not occupied, and yet people still continue to build. No, we've got to stop that sort of thing. That's a development model which is no longer valid. We also needed to change our water and sewage system. So it isn't just a question of what you can see on the surface. You have to go under the earth as well, and improve matters so that we don't we don't discharge into the sea sewage water. If you want to enhance your seawater and attract tourists, you've got to improve the environment as well. So this is the sort of thing we were discussing matters. This is the sort of thing we were discussing yesterday. We're in the Mediterranean, we're in Europe. People come from the four corners of the earth to see what we've built over the past 2,000 years. The problem is, however, that our growth model has indeed really undermined our cultural, our artistic and architectural heritage. So you could have on the one hand a beautiful house which was inhabited by maybe Giuseppe Verdi right beside a modern museum devoted to Fellini. So we want to think in terms of new jobs for our young people. So we need tourism for that, and we need to develop a new form of tourism, because that's the way you're really going to achieve change. Because in this way, if you attract thousands of people every year, these people will really acquire knowledge about the beauty of Italy and our region and our city. Young people who have gone to university, thanks to co-working, might produce a startup, and this startup can really be helpful to tourists and people coming to see the beautiful art which we have. Of course, there is a certain amount of certainty, but uncertainty. Now, a lot is said today about driverless vehicles. Buses will no longer be driven by bus drivers. An economy can develop thanks to mobility. Mobility means tourism. Over 1 billion people traveled last year. That figure is going up all the time. They come from India, they come from China. Those who invest in all sorts of structures to take these people in, hotels and structure provided for these people, that will help. So we shouldn't be afraid that buses will no longer be driven by human beings. There's more to it than that. There is a way to develop our economy and to cater for all these tourists. So we're a small community, and we must be courageous, we must be bold, we must really work on our foundations. That's the way we're going to provide jobs for our young people. They'll be less excluded, less marginalized, and less, therefore, inclined to make use of drugs and the like. I remember that when I was 16 or 17, heroin arrived in the part of the city which I lived in. Now, this is a drug which is still around today, but at the time, the use and the consumption of that drug excluded people, because people had to move away and go and consume that drug far away from other people. But now there are drugs which are giving you the opposite message. Take this little pill, because then you'll really be hip. You'll be part of a community. Now, if society starts supplying or thinking or providing an illusion to people, if young people start to believe that by taking synthetic drugs, they'll be in society, they'll be part and parcel of what counts, well, then we're really on the wrong track. We need to find new development models. We need to invest on the beauty of our country. This is a small revolution which our communities can embark on. This is a new adventure. We're just at the beginning of that. One thing I've understood from San Patrignano is a very strong international community, open to the world, but it's increasingly strong in terms of its links with the community, this community which is really trying to change and to bet on the future, as it were. We're working with the local health authorities, the municipal authorities. We're working also with family centers. We're not just talking with teenagers, but we're also trying to establish a relationship with families with young children so that we can really help these people right from the outset. So thank you very much indeed. Thanks to San Patrignano, we will be following what you will be saying here today very closely indeed.